no money, that's an asshole. It wasn't a phase.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a newly decorated set on the Senior Citizen podcast because we are here with the Himalayan Salt Band. How you guys doing today?
We're doing good. We're excited and honored to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
So I have a list of the local bands that have reached out, and it was funny because it was a test that I put up, and you guys responded to the test.
Yeah, basically.
Because I was like, I wonder if anybody's going to actually listen to me talk on the story. And when you guys hit me up, I was very excited. I checked out your music. It was great. How did this band get started?
Rock ensemble.
Yeah, so we met in a Miami Beach rock ensemble at Miami Beach Senior High, and we would just have little jam sessions like in between rehearsal, like whenever we had free time, like after rehearsals, we would just jam.
Yeah, basically we all just went to high school together, Miami Beach Senior High School. They had a program that has been going since 1972. It's originally just a rock band, and back in the days it was just a concept to have kids from the school within the school to basically just like play rock covers all across Miami, and it became sort of a tradition. It got pretty big, and generations of musicians just walked out of there, and we were lucky enough to be a part of it in our time in high school. In my senior year, I became a guitarist. I was originally a sound engineer, and Mauricio was the other guitarist, but our bassist didn't know how to jam that much, so he would just like hop on the bass, and then from there we were like, okay, let's get together. And there was the youth music festival that takes place at the band show. We were trying to apply for it. We sort of just got together, wrote like maybe 2 tunes, and we applied for it, but we missed the deadline, but we got the name out of it, so it just went from there. And I don't know, like little by little, like we just kept on adding, like, you know, other individuals. We have a guitarist, his name is Aiden, and he definitely shaped a little bit like the sound and the direction that we took from there. We have a keyboardist, so I don't know, I guess like the concept has been to keep it as a collective. So we have musicians coming in and out. We played with horns. We have a singer here and there. Like about 3 weeks ago, we played with a violin. So it's a way to just like, you know, keep it interesting.
So as you said, like I was originally a guitarist, and as this band formed, I just was robbed of my position as being a guitarist to being permanently a bass player. So now my destiny has been formed.
They formed it for you.
Basically.
So the rock ensemble was cover bands.
Yeah.
What did you guys used to like cover?
It was mostly like old school rock, like Led Zeppelin, Queen,
classics.
Pink Floyd.
And
and
some contemporary music too.
even some contemporary music. I mean, considering that you have like a bunch of kids in school, not all of them had the same music taste. So, you know, creating a set list like implied, you know, having every single person in the band to kind of just like bring in their vibe. So, you know, we could go ask for R&B, more like indie music and stuff. So overall, a little bit of everything, but mostly rock.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. It's funny because it's like that experience kind of shaped what you guys are doing nowadays, and I had a similar experience in high school where my high school had a radio station, and that was my like awakening to, wow, I want to do this like full time, at least like being media and whatever. So it's just cool to find your calling like from such a young age. I kind of want to go one by one though to like know the backgrounds in music in general growing up. I'll slide the mic over.
Okay, so I started playing drums at like a pretty young age, like around 3 years old. I got my first drum kit, and I was just always interested. Like as a kid, just I would go to my family friend's house, and they had a drum kit there, so I'd always just be playing the drum kit when I was a kid. So, but and then I started taking lessons at around like 7 years old, and I would always go to this one music camp called University of Miami. It was called the Frost Young Music, like, oh my god, like a Frost. I'm so nervous. This is my first time on a podcast, so it's just like, yeah. But it was called the Frost Camp. It was like a bunch of young musicians that would go there. So I started going there, and oh my god, this is horrible.
We're vibing, dude. Like we're chilling.
But yeah, I would go there for about like 10 years. I think I was going there, for a while. So, But
so your whole life was just drumming.
yeah, bro,
Ever
for
since,
real.
Like, you could remember it, like, because like.
No, yeah, that helped a lot because I got a chance to play with a lot of musicians and everything. So, but yeah, and then I went to Mac for a bit. Was there for like only 1 year because the music, like the education, just wasn't the best. I was like playing saxophone, even though I was a drummer. Like it was weird.
Played sax.
I know, for 1 year it was so weird. Like they didn't let people
didn't know
play.
that.
Yeah, they didn't let people play.
Finding out today.
Yeah, they didn't let us play like our instrument till like high school or something.
Oh.
Some weird stuff like
That's
that.
kind of messed up.
No, yeah, we were playing like orchestra music, like weird.
Nice.
But yeah, and then went to Miami Beach High and then met these guys. So yeah.
So a common theme here is that people will learn things about the people that they play with that they had
Yeah.
no idea about.
Yeah, no.
We're really showing our true
Fuck,
colors.
Harry.
Yeah, bro. Like I thought I told you guys I played
No way.
No.
for like 1 year.
I mean, I knew that you sort of picked up the bass here and there, but
Oh,
no
yeah, that's
sax.
I did play the bass for like 1 year and then also piano for like 1 year.
And drums was just it for you. That's what you like to
Yeah,
play.
I just stuck with that. But I also did dabble a little bit in with like producing music, like on Logic, and I was always doing it on GarageBand, just like a little bit as a kid. So
He makes beats.
yeah, some beats.
Fire
Sick beats, bro.
Yeah.
Mauricio, what about you? We're going down the line.
All right. So, all right. I vividly remember picking up the guitar for the first time in 8th grade, in middle school. And in our middle school, we also had a second, like a junior version of the rock ensemble that was compared to the high school version. So I would start there. Actually, before that, it was just a guitar class, and then like I've been around music pretty much my whole life because my dad, he plays guitar as a hobby, and he will always be playing like around the house. He'll be singing, and I'll just be like chilling. I wouldn't be bothered by it because it was just like pretty nice. But I never showed much interest until that one class in middle school where I picked up the guitar, and I was like, wow, I was really applying all this musical knowledge and all these songs, and then I just started out learning like Gorilla songs and like like
Gorillaz
21
is lit.
Pilots, all that stuff. But then I got shaped by Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. I started listening to a bunch of old classics. Then my dad put me on to like Slipknot, Korn. So that's my upbringing.
That's drastic
Yeah.
from Gorillaz to Korn.
Yeah. So like, yeah, my taste is kind of like all around, but those are my roots.
Good stuff.
And then high school happened, and then just met these guys, and that's his history.
So there was no real like emo or scene phase for you. You just jumped
I'm kind of
straight
in
into the cool
I'm
stuff.
kind of in an emo phase right now.
Oh, okay. What are you listening to now?
Okay, or maybe like I guess it's pretty relative. I don't know if you would consider it emo, but I'm listening to like Korn, Deftones, Limp Bizkit.
What it
Emo's
used to
whatever you
be
want it to
emo in
be.
the early 2000s, I guess.
Right.
Before, like, I don't know, I guess, like, My Chemical Romances.
My Chemical
And all
Romance.
those bands.
Isidro, I'm excited to hear about your background because this is the first time that we have a Venezuelan on the show.
Yes.
And you actually grew up there, so I want to know
yeah.
if you were involved in your music scene around there. What is the music
So-
scene like?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Venezuela until I was 15. There's no other musicians in my family. My uncle, I guess, like he picked up the guitar when he was 15, and he had a guitar laying around the house. I used to just kind of like dabble on it. Guitar Hero definitely was like,
Guitar
yeah,
Hero.
you know.
Guitar Hero didn't do shit for me.
I mean, I don't think it did for anyone, but like it got me into the aspect of like, okay, like this is cool. Like it
Yeah.
feels like I'm playing guitar, but not really. But funny enough, my first instrument was drums. My mom had a friend that he played in multiple bands at the time. They were like bands from the local scene. And he used to have like an electric drum set in his house. I used to come in and just like, you know, jam. We didn't have like the resources or the space like for me to have a drum set. Like, you know, being a drummer, it's hard. Like I'm sure Harry knows, like it's loud and it requires space. We lived in an apartment, so there was no way. So as an alternative, I joined the National System of Orchestra. I was a percussionist for about 2 years. And it was basically the same, like, you know, kind of wall in there where I couldn't, you know, get past it. There's no way that you could just go home and practice in a xylophone if you don't have a xylophone. At the time, I was like 13, and I always hung out with like people who were a lot older than me. So They were in bands. There was a band at the time called Flor de Jamaica. They play reggae, and they're no longer a thing, unfortunately. But a lot of my close friends at the time, they were in bands, so we used to like hang out in plazas and just like, I don't know, would show up and play with them, and that's how I kind of got into the guitar. It was like the more affordable, the more accessible, and I sort of just went from there. I'm a self-taught musician, and that was sort of my path with the guitar, you know. And what other bands inspired me at the time? There was this band called Los Colores. Alejandro Sojo was the songwriter and guitarist, and he taught me a lot. He definitely, like, you know, planted that seed in there. And it wasn't up until when I came here when I was 15 and I joined the school, like the concept of there educationally, you don't have elective classes and there's nothing like really directed towards the arts. So that was my first time actually having access to like a guitar class in school and, you know, being able to play a guitar every day in school. And it just went up from there. I mean, like I started jamming with a lot of people, and just by jamming I got better, and that's where I am right now. Yeah, just jamming.
If you had to pick between music scenes, do you prefer, and I mean, just the vibe overall, the one over here or the one back home?
I mean, I feel like the scene, it's shaped by the culture, you know. Being from South America, there's more music that's more in the mainstream side and, like, you know, more easily consumed by the people. We're talking about whether it's modern Latin, trap, rap. Over there was also a big alternative scene. There's a couple bands that still stand till nowadays. La Vida Boheme, it's like one of the greatest with, like, you know, like the most like international projection. But if I had to choose one, I'd say here, maybe not so much a local scene, because I feel like there's still, like, you know, a little bit of like, how could I say this? Like everyone's sort of falling into the same concept of like what the music needs to be consumed and like what's the acceptable music. But here I found my calling by name musicians that play other kinds of music. You know, I really got into jazz when I was like 16 and met other jazz guitarists. So definitely a scene over here. I feel like it's a little bit more diverse. You definitely have a lot to choose from, you know, whether it's hardcore bands from Kendall or jazz from like, you know, FIU and UM Kids, or alternative rock indie, or if you go a little further up in Broward, you have like some bands that they dabble a little bit into everything, like whether it's like, you know, old school rock or just like straight up like emo or punk. Yeah, definitely I'd choose the scene here.
Okay.
Easily.
It's diverse.
It's more diverse, yeah.
And
yeah,
I think it was an interesting kind of roadblock that I hit when I was coming up with the concept of this podcast, because it was supposed to be about, like, you know, everybody coming in here talking about the scene days, and not everybody had that. Everybody had very different backgrounds. Some of these musicians came from School of Rock that, you know, they're like classically trained in how to play the drums, not just drums go boom, as another guest put it. So yeah, did you go through an emo or scene phase, Harry?
I mean, emo phase. I mean,
should have let your bangs grow out and dyed it at some point.
Straighten the hair.
Nah, I mean, I feel like I've been listening to like a lot more like heavy, because I wasn't really a big heavy metal fan or like that kind of genre. I wasn't really a fan of that kind of genre, but slowly I've been kind of listening to a little bit of like Deftones, Tool.
Yes, Tool.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a phase. Maybe I'm having a phase right now. I don't know.
It's not a phase, Mom. It's not a phase.
Yeah, it's definitely not a phase. But no, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I just want to say you're being a good sport, because like as soon as I ask you a question, you're like, "Fuck, I have to talk again."
This is hard for me. You know, talking is hard.
Yeah, Harry's sort of the quiet guy in the band, but he's a goof as soon as he's like, you know, comfortable.
Yeah, like it takes time. Like I'm starting to, you know.
Starting to listen up.
Yeah.
All right.
Get the vibe.
And Mauricio, your scene phase? I see you got trip pants on, kind of, ish. No, those aren't trip pants. They're missing the chains.
Yeah. I still gotta break into it.
Yeah.
My scene phase?
No, you went straight to the cool. Isidro, did you have a scene phase?
I guess like I've dabbled a little bit into everything. Like I remember like the first couple of bands that I was like really into when I was a kid, they were mostly like rock influences, but I mean my mom used to listen to a lot of classical music, and you know, like flamenco, and I don't know, I guess like contemporary like 80s music. There was also like the Beatles here and there. So I guess I never really had like a phase, though I do go by phases. Like there are like certain seasons where I'll listen to one particular genre, and then just like find another artist and then dabble into it. So I'm pretty rounded. I mean, like I guess nowadays like I listen to most stuff that it's like more on the prog rock, jazz, like fusion type of vibe, you know? Like I also, I don't know, like I've dabbled into electronic music. Like I like drum and bass, deep house. I like jazz fusion. There are a couple of heavier bands I used to listen to when I was 15, like Pantera, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer. More like Come
Slayer in forever.
Gato vibes, yeah. She laughing. She knows what it means. But yeah, no, like I guess I'm pretty rounded. I listen to a bit of everything. I love boleros. I love bossa nova. I love everything, dude. Like, give me something.
And I think that's pretty mutual.
Yeah.
Throughout the.
Yeah, we sort of like have like similar backgrounds in the sense that like, I mean, Harry comes from a different background, Mao comes from a different background, I come from a different background, our guitarist Aiden comes from a different background, our keyboardist comes from a different background. But in a way, that's sort of like what shapes our sound. You know, we bring in elements from all this like characteristics, and it blends in together. You know, we share each other's like music taste, and it's very similar. Very similar. Like we're always bopping to something. Like, you know, whenever someone brings in a song, like we're like, okay, I can fuck with this. Yeah.
Right.
We're basically a really good chemistry. You know, we just like get around. We don't even plan like our rehearsals. Like we just kind of just like jam out, and then like we come out with like 2 or 3 songs, and then it's just like, you know.
Yeah, it's very, very natural in that sense. Like I guess like we play with each other for so long that we kind of like get how we think and how we go about like, I don't know, expressing ourselves. So music being that language in which you communicate in a different realm, like we basically understand each other.
And it's funny that you mentioned that like there's no real proper planning to the rehearsals and stuff, but you listen to the outcome, because I checked you guys out on Spotify, and it's such a smooth sound. It's like,
man,
Yeah,
that's
it
like
was
that's from like
so that's
from
my
like
next
that's
question.
from like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it said March of 2022 that it was posted, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, we recorded it in 2020. It didn't go out until like a year later.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's next for Himalayan Salt Band besides amazing decor, possibly a career in this?
So as we're standing right now recording, it's always like an interesting concept for us. We're an instrumental collective. We play like psychedelic jazz funk music. So being into a studio setting sort of changes that paradigm of like how things are usually supposed to be executed. Where we're standing right now, we have a single coming up. There's not a date yet, but we're working on it. And then after that, we have an album planned out. We have plenty of music. Here's the thing, like jamming so much and playing so much, like we have definitely more than enough to like have like 3 albums coming up, but recording is always like that one thing that gets in the way. So our alternative right now, it's like we're becoming more independent in the sense of like finding our calling and our pathing, like how we want to do things and how we plan on like recording stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically we have a single coming up with a singer. And then from there, it's an album.
Oh, with the singer, in the single.
In the single, yeah.
Yeah, we actually got vocals for once.
Who's the vocalist? Can you say?
So yeah, she's actually an amazing musician from the scene. Her name is Cecilia Leon. She goes by Ceci Leon.
Okay.
She dabbles more into the jazz R&B genre. It's super versatile, really powerful voice. We also met her in Rock Ensemble. She was one of the vocalists. So we know some of the cats around, and that's how kind of like we dabble.
Yeah, big shout out to Ceci Leon.
Big shout out to Ceci Leon.
I'll have to check her out.
Awesome.
I love that it's a collective, like this concept. I guess, yeah, first time having an actual collective on the show, except for when we had Bradley on here.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the foundation. We started as a trio, and then we added a guitarist, and then we had a keyboardist that also played percussion, but that didn't work out because of like, life situations. And then we had another keyboardist, and then a sax, and then we've played once with a trumpetist. One of our mentors from back in high school, his name is AJ Hill. Big jazz cat, has played with like Herbie Hancock and a bunch of like important musicians, like
He's in the Spam All Stars.
Spam All Stars, like great, like one of the pioneers in the local, definitely. Like so yeah, like that's sort of our thing, we just have people coming in and out, and it gives it a different flavor, a different sense of like what the songs usually are. They're not
still has like the core like of just the 3 of us.
Yeah, basically. Like we stay tight, and they just, sprinkle colors and flavors on it.
Yeah, no, I love it because you can run into people who probably like this kind of music and don't have anybody to jam with, and you guys are just open to it. Not like you can't sit with us on Wednesdays. We wear pink kind of deal.
Nowadays, we're being a little bit more selective with who we play with. No sense of like superiority or anything, but like we kind of have more of a clear vision now that the time has passed into like where we're headed and the music that we want to make. So. Yeah, that's sort of where we're standing right now.
So on Wednesdays we do wear pink. Okay.
On Wednesdays we do wear pink.
So I want to ask a little bit because it was funny. I said bring instruments, and you guys we got decor.
We're supposed to bring instruments.
Well, I said you guys could bring instruments for a little acoustic sesh. Something we're trying out over here. But I love the decor. It really brightens up the studio. Do you guys like in your shows? I'm sorry, I haven't seen you guys live. In your shows, do you come in?
This is sort of like our concept or our aesthetic. You know, when we go to a show, like I don't know, Himalayan Salt Band. Like,
has anyone tried to lick the lamp?
We do. We do. I feel like other people have tried before, and yeah.
I pressure other people to do it.
Yeah, we encourage it. It gives them the power.
Free
the magic.
Free
ticket to the show if you like the salt lamp.
You get a whole different type of experience.
Is there a reason behind it, or is it just like it's pretty kind of situation?
I mean, our name is Himalayan Salt Band. I guess it just goes without saying, right?
The flowers.
The flowers. I mean, like we were having our 1-year anniversary at the Miami Beach band show.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like I had spoken to the director. At the time, his name is Sammy Gonzalez. He's the CEO of Young Musicians United and Wynwood School of Music. And originally, we wanted to have some visuals. You know, like I worked on some visuals. I edited the whole thing in Premiere. And we were not able to have them on because, like, it was an extra cost for the venue to have, like, you know, the screen down. It's like another $1,000. Some bullshit. So I was like, okay, like, I mean, if we're going to have the salt lamps, like, they're going to kind of look plain. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I spent like $150 and multiple flowers, and literally the day off, like hours before the show, we were like in the back room just like putting them together. And ever since, like, you know, it gives a nice stage presence. You know, people walk in and they see the lamps and they see the flowers, and it's like, okay, this is a vibe.
Well, with this in between Corazon Rabioso's flower counts,
yeah,
I feel like you guys just always have to play together.
Yeah, I mean, like we played with them a couple of times. Like they're the homies. Like, you know, they reached out to us for the very first time, and we played at their house all the way in Buttfuck Plantation.
I live next to Buttfuck Plantation.
There's no shame on it. But it is pretty far. I mean, we're beach boys. Like, we're from Miami Beach, so for us, it was a drive. It was like easily 45 minutes.
Fun,
yeah.
But I mean, ever since, like, you know, like there's a couple of like friends like on the scene that, you know, like you fuck with each other's music and then you kind of like stick together because it's kind of like the same vibe. And we had a show with them in February, I believe. Or I think it was March. Was it? It was March. It was in March. It was at the Sandbar, and they were like, you know, wearing their crown flowers, and we showed up with this, and they were like, "What? Like, what do you mean? Like, you have flowers?" And it's like, "Yeah." Like,
it was just meant to be.
Oh, I love it because when he came here with the flower crown, he was like, he gave me this whole spiel, which was great, and it had meaning and everything.
Oh yeah, they're pretty deep about their meaning and like how they go about their music. Yeah,
but then after the interview ends, he goes, "I also like to feel pretty." And I'm like, as you should.
This makes us feel pretty in one way or the other.
It uplifts the mood.
I feel like that should be the first reason.
Right. That's first and foremost, I want to feel good.
Yeah, we're not trying to steal their thing. That is like our thing.
No, and it's definitely separate. Like, they don't have a patent on flowers, but I love it. I'm just in awe. Right, Dan? You see what I did with the place?
I mean, as a band, like, I feel like everyone has to have their own meaning and their own concept. And, you know, for us, it was kind of just like this. You know, it's like we're definitely more of a live setup type of band. So when people show up to our concerts, it's all about the vibe and, like, you know, what we put on stage.
Right. Like Himalayan Salt Nights.
The Salt Bar Nights.
Yeah, Salt Bar Nights.
Yeah, the Salt Bar Nights.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So, right after the pandemic, we were kind of just like looking for shows. Like, we had been jamming for a fat minute at our guitarist's house, Aiden, and our friend Valentino, he was working as a sound engineer at this place called the Sandbar. It's a venue of Miami Beach. At the time, they didn't have much going on after the pandemic. Maybe they had like 2-3 shows, but it wasn't really popping. And us being Beach Boys, we were like, okay, like, I mean, like, I had the clutch of Valentino, and I met the director of entertainment. His name is Cos Candler. For those of you that don't know who Cos Candler is, he played with the Romantics, that song that goes, "That's what I like about you."
Oh, Wow.
That's him, and I got an in with him. I got an in with the owner, and they were kind of hesitant about giving us the venue because like we were all kids at the time, but they really pulled through, and it was a Tuesday night, and we brought about 120 people. Like we sold out all the merch, and it was a crazy turnout. And ever since they offered us a contract to play a monthly show, and since they're the Sandbar and we're Himalayan Salt Band, I conceptualized it to be the Salt Bar Nights, and that was like our event. You know, we play there monthly, and we have a show. We put the lineups together, and yeah, I mean, I kind of had to sell it to them as a strategy, because like Miami Beach doesn't really have like venues for musicians. Like if you want to go out on a Friday night to see a live band, there's not that. Like the scene over there, it's mostly clubs and electronic music and rappers. Churchill's had just shut down. Las Rosas had just shut down. So, and they were not equipped at all. Like the Sandboard had like probably 2 mics and 5 XLR cables when we showed up. So I had to like call a bunch of friends, like borrow equipment from our high school and a bunch of people, and we put the show together. And then we were like, okay, if we're gonna do this every month, like I need you guys to invest a little bit. So we had to do like a whole budget list with our friend Valentino of like to see what equipment they needed and stuff. And little by little, of us playing there and bringing in people, other bands started reaching out, and like the scene kind of just like spread. You know, we gave Miami Beach sort of like a space for musicians to.
I love that, because Miami Beach is very, I mean, I only go down there when I have like events in the Latin world, and it's like,
yeah, I mean, like it's not as diverse. And I mean, me growing up over there, like there was never that. I mean, if you wanted to see a band, it was like the band show, and it was like big lineups, and sometimes like the tickets could be like between $35 to $50. So it's like it's not as accessible, and like for local musicians to have access just to rent out the band show, it's pretty pricey. So
yeah,
they had a great spot. It was a vibe, you know, the backyard, the indoor space, and it just worked out.
Yeah, if you like really wanted to see like live music, you have to go to like in a hotel or something.
In a
Just,
hotel,
like, it was more
or
private events.
yeah,
And just, like,
private events.
Everything's more secluded. But with the Salt Bar Nights, we're able to like create at least something in Miami to just like have some live music.
And it's right on Collins. So.
Yeah.
I don't want to fill my mouth, but I believe that because of us, like we brought in some business, and ever since, like I mean, like nowadays it's even hard for us to get like shows, or like, you know, like our last show we had to book it 2 months in advance because like how consistent they've been.
Oh wow. I love that you guys did that. I mean, you have all these venues. A lot of them are up north. They're like in Pompano and Palm Beach. You have Propaganda. You have Respectable. So it's nice that you can stretch out that little piece, you know, really far down south.
Yeah, I mean, you have a couple like still down here. You have like Naomi's Garden, and then Lanyap, and I don't know, a couple of breweries that have like the spaces, like Unseen Creatures and Union Beer, etc. But nothing really for the people on the beach, really.
Right. No, and the marketer in me is screaming great branding.
Thank you.
So, not to get all philosophical, but like, what's the end line dream goal? And it could be individual, could be for the band, whoever wants to go.
I mean, for me, like I've always wanted to be in a band and play and just play music, like for the sake of playing music, for the love of it, for what I feel, for what it means to me. So my end goal is just basically like keep on playing with these guys, you know, like going other places, is spreading our music, is spreading our meaning. We're currently working on a whole rebranding. We recently acquired a new manager. His name is Luca Mejia. If you know Luis Enrique. Yo no sé mañana. Well, that's his dad. And yeah, I mean, he showed up and like with a whole strategy and based on a couple of concepts. Like we also met him in high school. He was the sound engineer at the Rock Ensemble, so we built that relationship. And yeah, we're just working on a much bigger picture that I am not allowed to disclaim any information about. But yeah, that's sort of where we're standing.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Like, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to do? Mao was saying that he's gonna quit all the time, but I don't know.
That's crazy.
I was about to jump in and be like, so this is a bad time to say Harry wants to quit, right?
Oh, no, Harry's getting kicked out. That's a different conversation.
Just because I can't talk, bro.
That's what you get, hey. Me personally, I don't know. I'd love to just travel around the world and play live music. And that's it.
I was about to say the same thing, bro. Like, I just like traveling around the world is one of my favorite things to do, and play music is like, especially with your good friends. So
Exactly.
That's like a dream, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've all sort of built a bond and this chemistry. Like, I don't play in any other bands, and every other time that I've tried to play with other people, like, it could flow, but it's not the same feeling. So, like, I mean, once you found whatever that is that people say it's it, I guess, like, we have it among us, and I don't know, like, I just want to enjoy and play with them for as long as we can.
That was very meaningful.
Yeah.
No, that was
And shed a
very.
tear.
Hearts.
Me too, a little bit.
Hearts.
You know, something in my eye.
Besitos.
Must be the salt, you know.
Yeah, this.
Salt.
No, I love that you guys know what you want to do. You have a clear direction. It sounds like big things are cooking. Don't forget about us when you're on the big stages.
We'll be back. I don't know if that's like the end goal, but if it happens, we'll just roll with it.
Like I told, I think it was on GY. I was like, I want you to dream big. I want you to dream about those big stages and think that you can make it there without giving up who you are and what you stand for. Because then what's the point, you know, if you lost yourself on the way.
Yeah.
On another note, I don't know if you guys have seen that we like to ask a relationship advice question from Reddit.
Okay.
To get shit.
This is interesting. I mean, let's do it.
Sorry, looking. So this is a 32-year-old male wife. The wife is 31. Hid a child from me.
Wait, hid or
Just
Hid.
like hid it, like
hidden.
and kept it a secret.
I've been with my wife for 6 years and recently found out a secret that she kept from me during that time, which was that at 16 years old, she had a baby. Now, even though that is a shocker, it's not the part that is the real issue here. The real issue is that I remember meeting him twice, once at our wedding, and then again just last year when we went out to town, when we went out of town. He was with 2 older people at our wedding. When my wife was speaking to them, I went up to them and she whispered that they were just a friend from her hometown. I thought nothing of it. We went to her hometown last year and he was at the grocery store with some friends. It definitely looked like some stupid teens trying to steal alcohol during the summertime. I was actually the one that pointed him out because he looked familiar. She got angry, proceeded to walk up to him, and practically dragged him outside to talk to him. I really questioned her reaction and asked her a small question about it afterwards, but she brushed it off. 2 days ago, I found out that that's her son, and I can't wrap my head around it. What does this mean for our marriage? Where do we go from here?
I feel like I have more questions than solutions from that. It's like, how do you go about 6 years of like being married to someone and you don't know they have a child? Like, does the child not live with them? Like, was the child abducted? Like,
well, it looks like he stayed in the hometown of the wife. Like, she moved away.
So what's exactly the question here? Like what does it mean for the marriage?
Yeah.
That you got a couple more questions to ask, bro. Like if she hit that, there's definitely a lot more to know there. Like, who hides a child and for what reason? What's the purpose there?
Well, I could speak on behalf of all of us. We are not 30. We are not married.
We don't have children.
we have other things to worry about. We don't ponder about these topics. But if I have to give out a solution, maybe get to know her son more. And
yeah, I think the fact that she's lying for 6 years maybe tells you something.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's
I
like,
don't believe
maybe
in
just
a
leave
divorce
the marriage.
yet, I don't believe in a divorce yet.
I don't know. It depends.
maybe
how-
not
how
necessarily a
it's going.
divorce, but be like, hey, listen, like, I mean, that's your child. I don't see any particular reason why you should hide it and why he shouldn't be a part of your family. I think it's a little messed up that you're kind of like, I don't know, pushing him away and kind of like, you know, keeping it from me. Like, you know, let's do something about this. Whether he could either come live with us, see if I like the kid to begin with. Like, it's not mine, but I mean, like, we might get along. Like,
Yeah.
like, do you know him? Like shit.
Dan, you're basically 30. What would you have done? Whoa.
Come join the podcast.
I mean, do you have a hidden child that we don't know of?
No. So.
No, but I mean, like, you love her for the time you met her, from the time now, working out from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. It's like,
So,
She hit it for a reason, but you know what? I still love you.
one of the comments that actually pointed out a good point of view on this is that you don't know if she grew up in a very religious town where it's kind of like, oh, it was a shame to be a teen parent, and she just kind of
So
had to,
many
like,
factors could have happened.
right, and
Yeah.
it's not black and white; it's morally gray.
that's why I said I have more questions than solutions. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we need a little bit more context, but
All right, guys, it is your we're still a big question mark on this one. Sorry, guy. We can't help you. This is your shameless plug moment. Go ahead and let everybody know whatever you want them to know about the Himalayan Salt Band. I don't want to touch that. I feel like there's germs from people looking at
It's germs.
There's magic.
It's magic.
Just magic. You might get some powers. What do we want to let them know? I mean,
Stay salty.
We have a show coming up in August.
we have a show coming up.
Not yet. Set, but
It's pretty much in the air, but we're trying to get a show going. The date has not been secured, but I mean, just follow us in social media. Now we have a webpage that we recently just did. It's called HimalayanSaltBand.com. And you could see our bio. You could see our live performances. You could see some cool pictures. Even the EP is there.
Our merch is gonna be there soon.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of a whole rebranding, so we'll get some new merch coming up. And yeah, that's about it, I guess.
For real.
Thank you guys for watching us, and thank you guys for having us. I mean, it means a lot to be here.
We'll be on the lookout for the show, for the new music.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the vocals because I like music with vocals.
Oh, she's a hater, instrumental
Not
music.
a hater.
What?
I just like singing along. And if I can't play an instrument, I can't play along. You're right. You know what?
You
I'll
could
give that a
sing
try. I'll
melodies.
hum along.
You could sing melodies. I mean, if you think about it, lyrics are basically, I don't know, based on melodies, right? Like, you know, someone thought of a melody and they put words to it to sort of give a meaning to the song. But the kind of music that we make doesn't necessarily imply a meaning or something that people should relate to, you know? So when they show up and they listen to the instrumentality behind it, it's up to the listener and to the experience to go wherever they want to go. There's not a genre that established, like, what they're supposed to feel. There's not lyrics that establish what they're supposed to think of and, like, you know, feel. And, like, most times, like, people just sing along mindlessly without thinking too much into the lyrics, and then people think too much about the lyrics and they think it has this whole completely different meaning, leaving a little bit, I don't know, apart, like, the instrumentality and what's actually happening. So
Or maybe you could start to learn how to beatbox and then and beatbox to our music.
you get beatbox to your music. You get
all I
hum
know is I was digging it. Made me feel good.
You
It
get
helped uplift the mood. It's great. We'll be on the lookout for those shows, for any new music. We'll be out here to support. I can't wait to see you guys do huge things. And don't forget to subscribe to the Senior Citizen Podcast. We will catch you guys on another episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.